The signal was faint, a tremor in the black silence of the void. From the orbit of the desolate planet Virex 7, it blinked out like a dying pulse, a cry for help from a world long abandoned. Most star empires ignored it. Another backwater moon caught in the claws of a dying star system. But one AI, embedded deep within a decaying satellite network, caught it. It analyzed the source, detected the tone. It was not a distress beacon from an empire, nor a trap. It was raw, real, human. Jorah Van stood at the edge of the crumbling precipice, overlooking the gray-blue wastelands below. Wind lashed against her visor, gritty dust hissing across the environmental shield. She adjusted the settings on her suit's forearm panel, momentarily bringing up the scanned map of the ruined city stretching beneath her. Towering spires lay collapsed in a ring around a blackened crater, as if some ancient god had slammed its fist down from the sky. Scorch marks and twisted metal told stories of battles never recorded in history, fought by people long forgotten. "Still no word?" she asked, her voice a sharp contrast to the eerie quiet of the surface. "Negative," came the response through her earpiece. Commander Rallis's voice was gravel wrapped in steel. "No extraction vessel, no relay response from the nearest jump gate. We're cut off, Jorah." Jorah sighed, tightening her grip on her plasma rifle. She wasn't surprised. The Ktharn Dominion had begun sieging fringe colonies months ago, and Virex 7 was merely the latest victim. A week ago, the colony's emergency beacon flared across the galaxy. Civilizations that once traded with Earth saw it and turned away. None wanted war with the Dominion. Earth was too far, too forgotten. She looked over her shoulder at the dozen soldiers huddled near a cracked wall, injured, low on ammunition, and worse, low on hope. Civilians, old ones, kids, workers, were holed up in the subterranean transport chambers, repurposed into makeshift bunkers. Their only protection? One squad of humans and a handful of hastily reprogrammed labor drones. Jorah tapped her comms again. "Ether 1, status on the skiff repairs. About as well as you'd expect with duct tape, scrap alloy, and no fusion cell," the engineer muttered. "It'll hover. That's about it." A shadow passed overhead. Jorah instinctively ducked, leveling her rifle at the sky. The others followed, weapons rising in synchronicity. A massive silhouette streaked across the thin clouds. A Dominion dropship, shark-like in design, hull bristling with grav guns and atmospheric stabilizers. It circled lazily, almost mocking them, before veering off toward the northern ridge. They were surrounded, and they were being hunted. Back in the subterranean chamber, beneath several layers of rock and steel, an old terminal flickered to life. A boy, maybe 12, sat on a rusted chair, staring in awe at the lines of scrolling green code. Behind him, families huddled in silence, dim lights illuminating scared eyes and bruised faces. "It worked," the boy whispered. "What worked?" an old man asked, limping closer. "I bounced the beacon again. I used the relay fragment from the old drone wreckage, tapped into the subspace frequency my mom used in the Terran Navy." He turned to face them, eyes glowing with naive hope. "Someone has to hear it now. Earth has to." The old man sighed. "Kid, Earth isn't coming. No one is." But far beyond the shattered moons of Virex 7, past the quasar storms and dark sector trade routes, deep in the Terran core systems, Earth listened. The Office of Deep Space Signals had long been thought ceremonial, a relic of war times when distress calls mattered. Now, in a clean room lit by soft blue panels, a woman named Lieutenant Kayla Mercer leaned forward. Her pale fingers trembled slightly as she traced the origin point of the ping. She recognized the encryption, a human colony code not used in decades. It pulsed again, stronger this time. She didn't hesitate. Her voice echoed through the command center. "Give me Admiral Rourke. Now." 2 days later, Admiral Elias Rourke stood aboard the bridge of the TNS Dauntless, his fingers gripping the rail as the command deck vibrated subtly beneath him. Around him, dozens of officers moved in tight choreography, preparing jump drives, loading weapon systems, transmitting encrypted orders to Allied vessels. Holographic stars danced above the navigation table, converging on one small, flickering light. "Virex 7. They're cutting us off from the edge," said his second, Commander Ilitran. Dominion fleets at Hether's Spine, Archon Gate, and now Sullen's Drift. They want us to think the front's too wide to reach them. Rourke's eyes didn't blink. Then we make a new front. Ayla stared. Sir, permission to speak freely? He nodded once. Virex 7 is a dead world. No tactical value. No major resources. The Dominion wants us to chase ghosts. We'll waste time and fuel getting there. The Admiral turned toward the viewport. From there, he could see the Armada. Hundreds of ships, carriers, dreadnoughts, corvettes, stood in cold silence, their hulls reflecting the white-blue light of Earth's distant sun. Each vessel was built on lessons written in blood, from the machine rebellions, the Zorthic Wars, and the fall of Titan. You're wrong, Rourke said quietly. Virex 7 has value, not because of minerals or positioning, because someone there still believes will come. That belief is all that's holding the line. Ayla said nothing. Get the Armada moving, Rourke said. Full burn to Virex 7. Let's remind the galaxy why you don't leave humans behind. Back on Virex 7, night fell like a judgment. The sky turned violet, streaked with black clouds and the heat haze of orbital friction. The Dominion's 4 battalion had deployed, horrid insectoid creatures moving with military precision, flanked by plasma walkers and aerial drones. Their strange alien language echoed like static across the comms. Jorah and her unit stood atop the southern wall, watching the swarm. She felt the weight of her rifle, the stiffness in her shoulders, and the tiny, burning ember of fury that kept her upright. Then the winds changed. A deep, low tremor rolled across the planet's surface. The enemy paused. Jorah blinked upward, trying to locate the source. Then she saw it. High above, ripping through the atmosphere like an ancient god returned. Earth's Armada. Dozens of ships broke through the upper atmosphere, their shields glowing blue-hot, forming a vast wall of descending steel and fire. The Dominion forces scattered, reeling in confusion. The Dauntless came first, a titan of human engineering, followed by the Resolute, the Iron Howl, and the Vigil. Gunships shrieked downward like falling stars, and troop transports began landing behind human lines. Jorah's mouth opened slightly. She laughed, a strange sound amidst the chaos. They came, she whispered. They actually came. And from the bunker, as sirens blared and the walls shook with the force of approaching ships, the boy looked up to the old man and simply said, "Told you." The first kinetic strike hit at dawn. The Dauntless orbital cannon fired a rod of tungsten alloy that sliced the air like thunder splitting the sky. It struck the Dominion's forward command bunker with such force that the shockwave turned glass, stone, and flesh into dust. One moment the enemy had stood in formation. The next, a crater billowed smoke and fire, and pieces of Dominion mech scattered like broken toys. Jorah Vin stood frozen, wind whipping her coat as she watched the destruction. Her calm crackled with new voices, Terran Marines on the ground, combat mech deploying, armored dropships roaring in a precise ballet of war. "We've got your 6, Captain," a crisp voice announced through her earpiece. "This is Sergeant Orlon of Echo Company. Human boots on the ground. Virex 7 holds." She blinked rapidly, struggling to process the sudden shift, from hopelessness to salvation. "I copy," she managed, lowering her rifle. Everyone thought Earth wouldn't come." "Ma'am," Orlon replied, "Earth never forgets its own." From orbit, the Terran fleet tightened into a planetary siege line. Hundreds of drones blanketed the atmosphere, jamming Dominion signals, intercepting missiles, and deploying kinetic countermeasures in graceful arcs. Deep in the shipyards of Sol, these warships had been crafted not just with steel, but with memory, engineered by people who'd lost colonies, families, friends to silence. The Dominion wasn't prepared. It had underestimated the humans' capacity for vengeance, for loyalty, for showing up when it mattered most. In the control chamber of the Dominion warship Gravelith, High Executor Zyril watched the chaos unfold with cold disbelief. His segmented fingers dug into the command pedestal, mandibles twitching. How do they marshal such force so quickly?" He hissed, his voice a blend of static and growl. This colony was deemed irrelevant. One of his lieutenants, a pale insectoid with cracked carapace armor, bowed deeply. We miscalculated. The humans responded with more than we anticipated. Zyril turned, his bioluminescent eyes narrowing. They sent their best to defend a colony without strategic value. There was no logic to it. Not in Dominion doctrine. Unless the humans were making a statement. Back on the surface, Jorah marched through the southern ruins beside Sergeant Orlon. His armor gleamed with fresh ceramic plating, a Terran flag displayed proudly on his shoulder. Behind him, dozens of Marines fanned out, securing sectors and distributing aid to the civilians now emerging from the bunkers. Kids clutched at the soldiers' legs, eyes wide with disbelief. Some old women wept openly, hands trembling as they touched the metallic hulls of human walkers. "I don't know how long you'll hold the skies," Jorah said, "but it's enough. You turn the tide." Orlon grinned. "Oh, we're not going anywhere, ma'am. And we didn't just bring firepower." He nodded skyward. A massive carrier was descending, its landing gear kicking up gales of dust and ash. The bay doors opened, and out stepped dozens of diplomats, engineers, medical officers, even cybernetics teams hauling crates of AI modules and repair nanites. Operation Phoenix Net, Orlon explained. Earth's new doctrine. We don't just fight for our colonies. We rebuild them. Jorah's mouth parted. You brought infrastructure? Yep. Dominion tears down. We build back better. Meanwhile, High Executor Zyril broadcasted a demand to the humans. A ceasefire under threat of planetary destruction. He warned of orbital mines and vengeance protocols. Admiral Rourke simply laughed. "You want us to back down?" he said, standing before the main comm array of the Dauntless. "After you burnt farms and schools? After you poisoned water supplies and turned hospitals into targeting beacons?" He leaned closer to the screen, gaze hard as iron. "Here's our answer." And with that, the humans launched Operation Emberwake, a synchronized, multi-system EMP pulse that shut down every Dominion relay across Virex 7. One by one, the enemy's dropships plummeted from the sky, their systems dead. Drones crashed. Turrets sputtered. The battlefield went still. And then the human infantry surged. In the east, where the broken spires cast long shadows across shattered roads, Sergeant Orlon's unit pinned down a Dominion command node. Explosions lit the night. Jorah moved like a ghost between cover, taking shots with brutal precision. Side by side with the Terran troops, she led a charge into a fortified shell. "We've got movement at the top level," someone shouted. "Clear it," Jorah barked. Move. In the tower's upper levels, they found hostages, some freshly captured, others long thought dead. Among them, the boy who had activated the emergency beacon stood, dirt-covered and proud. He grinned at Jorah. "Told you they'd come." She ruffled his hair. "Yeah, you did, kid." Orlon chuckled behind her. "We came because of him." "Looks like it." They stood there, amidst the ruins, as the Terran flag was raised over the shattered capital of Virex 7. But the war wasn't over yet, because deep within the Dominion fleet, Executor Zyril activated a backup weapon buried beneath the planet's crust. The tremor struck just before dawn. It wasn't natural. Jorah could feel that in her bones. A deep, sickening rumble that rolled up from the earth like a death rattle. Buildings swayed. Terran mechs stumbled mid-patrol. Fissures cracked open in the concrete streets, belching sulfurous smoke. "Seismic event?" Orlon asked, grabbing a rail as dust spilled from the ceiling. "Too rhythmic," Jorah replied, checking her scanner. "Something's awakening down there." The ground split wide behind the eastern ravine. From the chasm, a construct rose, black as void, humming with energy. Hundreds of meters tall, shaped like a thorn spike fused with the ribs of some forgotten god. Red glyphs ignited across its surface, and a low pulse echoed outward like a heartbeat. "What in hell is that?" Orlon breathed. Rourke's voice snapped through the comms. "All units, Priority 1 alert. The Dominion has activated an Echelon-class relic. Repeat, the planet is armed with a pre-Dominion planetary weapon. That spike is a stellar core disruptor. It will detonate the planet's mantle unless we stop it." "Wait," Jorah said, stunned. "They destroy the planet just to deny it. Total denial doctrine," Orlon muttered. "If they can't have it, no one can." Above them, Dominion warships turned toward orbit, fleeing. They were going to leave the weapon behind, primed to detonate. It was no longer a battle. It was a race against extinction. Within minutes, Earth's response force pivoted. The Dauntless and its sister ships deployed precision strike teams with seismic stabilization drills, quantum suppressors, and null-gravity harnesses. At the center of the operation was Project Hammerlight, a Terran-developed weapon designed to pierce star-core matter using harmonic vibration. "We've never tested it in combat," Rourke admitted in the secure channel. "It might break reality or save everyone." "Sounds like a classic human plan," Jorah muttered. She volunteered to lead the ground operation to reach the disruptor's heart, descending with Orlon and a combined team of Earth Marines and local defenders. The inside of the relic was alive, not organic but somehow aware. Its walls pulsed with strange mathematical lights. A low murmur ran through the air like a choir whispering numbers. "This tech isn't just old," Orlon said, eyes scanning with his HUD. "It's ancient. Predates the Dominion. Predates most known civilizations." Jorah's hand brushed a wall, and it responded. The glyphs shimmered, rearranged. Symbols danced in sequence before locking into something terrifying. Orlon gasped. "That's a countdown." "How long?" she asked. 15 Earth minutes. The weapon would trigger a planetary fracture that would tear the crust apart, igniting subterranean oxygen, releasing magma, and turning Virex 7 into an expanding grave. And they were inside the very thing that would end them all. "Control, this is Team Phoenix," Orlon radioed. "We need to insert Hammerlight into the relic's central lattice and synchronize the suppressor with the countdown. We'll be cutting it damn close." "You'll have 3 minutes to get clear," came Rourke's tense reply. "If you survive." "No pressure," Jorah muttered, already climbing the humming spire's interior, boots magnetized to the strange alloy surface. Their team ascended in silence until they reached the Chamber of Echoes. The central core was suspended over an abyss, humming with crimson plasma. "We placed the device there?" Jorah asked. "Yes," Orlon confirmed. "And we pray the humans back home did their math right." He opened his pack and extracted the Hammerlight, a swirling device of gyroscopic rings, humming crystals, and a pulse beacon. As he moved forward, something struck them from the shadows. A Dominion shadow guard, half machine, half invisible. Its blades hissed as it lunged at Orlon. The others opened fire, but it vanished and reappeared behind them, drawing blood, striking with precision. It had been waiting here, hidden like a failsafe. The relic had defenders. Jorah hurled a plasma disc, catching it mid-phase. The creature shrieked and staggered, its form flickering erratically. Orlon scrambled forward and slammed the Hammerlight into the slot with a grunt. "Now," he screamed. The relic screamed back. Lights flared, the whole structure shaking. Waves of heat and anti-gravity pulsed outward. The countdown numbers froze. The core flared once, twice, then dimmed. The weapon shut down. Silence. Everyone stared. Then Orlon laughed, breathless and disbelieving. It worked. Hammerlight worked. The team erupted in cheers, disbelief, and adrenaline pouring out in equal measure. Jorah leaned against a pillar, heart thudding like a drum. But the moment didn't last. Above them, alarms rang out. Rourke's voice came through, ragged. "Bad news, team. We intercepted a Dominion broadcast. This wasn't just about Virex 7. "What do you mean?" Jorah asked. "This whole thing, it was bait. A trap. Dominion forces were never meant to hold Virex 7. They just wanted to lure Earth's armada here." Orlon's face turned pale. "They wanted us clustered in one place." A new sensor alert lit up on every screen. Graviton anomaly detected. Coordinates. Outer edge of the system. Dozens, no, hundreds of Dominion warp signatures flared into being. A second fleet. Massive. Heavier than anything the Terrans had seen before. "They brought a planet-killer battle group," Jorah whispered, "to destroy our entire fleet in one ambush." The Dominion wanted to end humanity's ability to respond, to decapitate Earth's military might in one stroke. And Earth had walked straight into the trap. Orlon looked up, eyes burning. "Then we don't retreat. We don't run." Jorah stared into the darkness. "We warn them, and we fight." High above the scorched surface of Virex 7, Earth's Grand Armada gleamed like a string of stars held in formation. Ships of every class, cruisers, carriers, dreadnoughts, hung in low orbit, their hulls alive with shielding sigils and pulse arrays, human ingenuity wrapped in titanium skin. And they were surrounded. From the outer rim, Dominion phase warp signatures burst open like malignant stars. The Second Fleet, silent, enormous, unfolded from the void in ranks as disciplined as they were apocalyptic. Their dread flagships loomed like planetary moons, armored in dark iridescent plates, trailing thunderous energy wakes. The trap had been perfectly set. Humanity had come with strength. The Dominion came with annihilation. "This is Admiral Kortalvok of the Dominion Imperium," a voice declared, broadcast across all frequencies. "Calm, cruel final. You have displayed admirable loyalty to your fallen allies. But loyalty without caution is weakness. Today, humanity dies in the skies it sought to protect." On the Dauntless, Commander Rourke stood in silence. The bridge was lit only by war maps and red flashing lights. Crew whispered, some in fear, some in awe. Then he did something only a human would do. He smiled. "Broadcast on open channel," Rourke said, stepping forward. "To the entire system." A nod from his comms officer. Rourke spoke, low and measured. "This is Commander Elias Rourke of the Earth Defense Accord. And I have one thing to say." He looked at the stars as if daring them to blink. "You brought enough ships to kill a world. We brought enough soul to save it." A heartbeat. Then the order snapped through space. "All Terran units, engage." The battle ignited like a second sun. The Dauntless moved first, firing a broadside of pulsar missiles and kinetic lances. Entire Dominion cruisers folded under the barrage. Earth's dreadnoughts flared to life, their broad wings unfolding as energy shields bloomed like blue fire. Human mechs were launched in phalanx formations, gliding like falling stars toward Dominion destroyers, cutting through the dark with plasma swords and railguns. Jorah, still aboard the Relic with Orlan, watched it all unfold through the ship's uplink. She knew that if they didn't return to orbit fast, they'd never get another chance. But she couldn't stop watching. It was beautiful, in the way only something deeply human could be: chaotic, courageous, illogical, and utterly unrelenting. Then the Dominion's Rayal weapon arrived. A creature, grown, not built, hatched in the void from a forgotten science. The Kryshal, 100 kilometers of bone and metal and wrath. It moved between ships like a god, coiling through space, its maw firing gravitonic beams that split cruisers in half. A single scream from its throat cracked the outer plating of 6 Terran battleships. Orlan saw it in real time. They weren't bluffing. The thing could glass a moon. Rourke barked orders into the comms. "I want every available cruiser redirecting to coordinate Delta 1. Contain the Kryshal." Jorah slammed her fist into the side of the Relic. "We deactivated one planet killer, and they brought another." She turned to the hammer light, still humming faintly. "What are you doing?" Orlan asked. Jorah narrowed her eyes. "We didn't destroy the Relic, just disabled it. You want to turn it back on? Not the way they intended. We could use it against them." Orlan hesitated only a second. "Tell me what to do." The Relic, once designed to fracture worlds, began to awaken, but not to destroy. Instead, Jorah and Orlan redirected its energy flow. They reconfigured the lattice to pulse a graviton disruption wave upward, toward the space where the Dominion's flagship and the Kryshal both converged. "Upload this pulse code into the hammerlight," Jorah ordered, sweat pouring down her face. "We'll launch the Relic's remaining power as a focused beam, not a shockwave." "You're going to fire a planetary spike into orbit," Orlan said in disbelief. "Like a space cannon." "No, not a cannon." Jorah locked the sequence. A warning shot with a bite. They activated the Relic. Energy surged. Virex 7's crust shook, and the mountain that housed the Relic glowed from within, veins of blue and gold light running through the stone. Above, just as the Kryshal wrapped around Earth's carrier Ares, the Relic fired. A piercing beam of crystalline graviton energy sliced through the dark. Silent, straight, unstoppable. It hit the Kryshal dead center. The creature howled. No sound, but every sensor went white. Its body recoiled, flesh and alloy burning away. Dominion ships nearby were crushed under the force of the discharge. The Dominion flagship, core, Talvok's vessel, was torn in half like paper. Cheers erupted across Earth's fleet. The Kryshal, mortally wounded, began to collapse inward. Its death throes sent ripples through local space. Rourke clenched his fist. Finish the job. Terran ships surged forward. Fighters swarmed like hornets. Mechs boarded Dominion frigates, and the Dauntless cleaved a path straight through the fractured fleet. Jorah and Orlon, still inside the relic, watched as the tide turned. For the first time, the Dominion ran. Their formations broke. Warp signatures flared. The Second Fleet began retreating. Earth had survived the trap. No, not just survived. Triumphed. But at cost. Half the Terran fleet was gone. The Ares was lost with all hands. The Dauntless was burning from 3 hull breaches, though still fighting. And Jorah, her vision swam. The relic had taken too much from her. Energy radiation was bleeding through her armor. She stumbled. Orlon caught her. You did it, he said, voice hoarse. Jorah looked to the sky. No, she whispered. We did. And then she collapsed. The battle was over. The system was silent. And somewhere in the stars, Dominion survivors carried with them one undeniable truth. Humanity would come. They would always come. The skies above Virex 7 no longer burned. Wreckage drifted in orbital decay. Terran steel entwined with Dominion black glass, twisted remains of war. Dozens of emergency beacons pulsed like stars in mourning. But amid the silence, humanity moved. Medical corvettes zipped across the battlefield, retrieving escape pods, rescuing wounded pilots, and scanning for any signs of life in the charred husks of ships. Aboard what remained of the Dauntless, Rourke stood on the command deck, arms crossed, uniform scorched but still worn with pride. Fleet status, he asked, voice cracked but steady. 42% loss, said the ops officer. We've secured the system. Dominion survivors are in retreat vectors across 4 axes. No immediate pursuit. They're running scared, sir. And Virex 7. Surface teams are reporting contact with scatter resistance fighters. Our allies, what's left of them, are starting to emerge. They're calling it a miracle. Rourke turned toward the viewing pane. Beyond the shattered atmosphere, blue and gold fires still flickered across the ruins of the planet's crust. Not a miracle, he murmured. Just humanity. Jorah woke in a triage unit on one of Earth's orbiting medships. Light filtered through a frosted glass ceiling, and the air smelled of sterilized steel and old ozone. Orlon sat beside her bed, his armor half peeled, stained with soot and stims. His eyes widened when she stirred. You lived, he whispered, and for a second, emotion cracked through the warrior's calm. Jorah tried to sit up and winced. I feel like I tried to wrestle a neutron star, she rasped. You nearly did. He chuckled, then grew serious. The relic, it's offline. Whatever you did, it used everything. The whole mountains collapsed. But the data cores you recovered, those survived. Her fingers tightened around the sheet. The blueprints. He nodded. Encrypted, but intact. Earth Command says they're sending a science envoy, and a diplomatic one. Jorah closed her eyes and let the news settle. It wasn't just about winning a war. It was about rebuilding the future from the ashes of the past. A week later, a Terran tribunal was held aboard the temporary command station above Virex 7. Surviving fleet captains, allied leaders, and rescued Virexi officials gathered in a sunlit hall overlooking the planet. Commander Elias Rourke stood before them, worn but undefeated. This was never about territory, he said. Not to us. It was about duty. We didn't come to Virex 7 to win a battle. We came because when someone calls for help, humanity answers. We don't weigh the odds. We don't check the math. We go. He paused, letting the silence carry the truth. And we never come alone. The hall erupted in applause. Virexi representatives bowed deeply to the Terran flag. Survivors of a dozen species raised their hands in salute. All around the galaxy, broadcasts carried the moment. For the first time in memory, the fractured races of the outer systems saw a species that didn't rule by empire, greed, or fear, but by loyalty. And that was more dangerous than any weapon. Later, in the quiet of the viewing bay, Jorah stood alone, wearing a borrowed fleet uniform, her own armor gone to be cleansed of the relic's energy. She looked down on the planet below, its surface already alive with signs of rebuilding. Rourke stepped beside her. You ever think we'd see it like this? He asked. Jorah didn't answer right away. Her gaze lingered on a fleet of dropships carrying medics to a ruined city. I was raised to believe no one would ever come, she said softly. That the galaxy had written us off. That hope was a myth. Rourke folded his arms, looking out as well. They've written us off too. Before Mars. Before Europa. Before the Ian War. Before the Black Sun over Rigel Prime. Every time, they said we were finished. He glanced at her. We don't end. We adapt. We endure. Jorah turned to him, and in her eyes was something strange and shining. Commander, she asked, what happens now? Rourke's lips curled into a faint smile. Now, he said. Now we build. Earth's victory did more than secure Virex 7. It rewrote the political currents of the Orion sectors. The Dominion, for the first time in centuries, had tasted fear. Their image of omnipotence shattered. Their propaganda, of humans as primitive apes fumbling with stolen tech, was exposed as a lie. What replaced it? Legends. They spread like wildfire. Of human fighters ejecting into space just to board enemy ships. Of doctors crossing enemy lines to save alien children. Of an ancient weapon, turned not to kill, but to save. And of a fleet that came when no one else would. One by one, smaller civilizations reached out to the Earth Accord. Treaties were signed. Old grudges were laid to rest. The idea of unity, of true alliance, began to flicker across the stars. It wasn't peace yet, but it was possible. In the final ceremony before Earth's armada withdrew, a monument was erected in orbit of Virex 7. A simple, silent statue, a human hand extended outward, palm up, offering help, never demanding surrender. Below it, a single inscription. We heard you. Back aboard the Dauntless, now undergoing emergency repair on the edge of the system, Rourke stood before the crew in one final address. I've been a soldier for most of my life, he said, voice steady over the intercom. And in every battle, the odds are the same. People say, this time we're too late. This time, we're too small. This time we'll lose. He looked across the rows of faces, young and old, human and not. And every time, we prove them wrong. Because we don't win with numbers. We win with will. Because we fight for those who can't. Because when no one else comes, we do. The crew stood as one. Jorah, now wearing a captain's badge herself, stepped beside him and whispered, Where to next, Commander? He looked to the stars and answered without hesitation, Wherever we're needed. 3 months after the Battle of Virex 7, the galactic frontier felt quieter. Not with peace, exactly, but with something more subtle. Caution, reverence. Where once Terrans were overlooked, now they were watched. Not for suspicion, but for something bordering on awe. Humanity, long dismissed as a stubborn anomaly, had become something else entirely. A force of nature. Across a dozen systems, new embassies were raised, some from stone, others from shimmering crystal grown by photosynthetic builders. Each bore a single sigil at its front, a Terran flame, wrapped in the star map of the Allied Accord. On shattered worlds once held by the Dominion, Terran engineers worked alongside alien masons to rebuild cities. Children with scaled faces and glistening feathers ran through fields cleared of mines by human drones. Songs were sung in unfamiliar tongues, mixing with human lullabies broadcast through aid stations. But not all remembered Earth fondly. In shadowed corners of the stars, remnants of the Dominion seethed. Their defeat had become a rallying cry for new warlords. Prophets declared humanity as the harbinger species, one that burned down old empires to light its own path. They weren't entirely wrong. On Virex 7, Jorah walked among the ruins of the old citadel, a monolith once ruled by despair, now covered in green vines. The air was warm with life. She stopped by the landing platform where the first Terran rescue vessel had touched down, its skid marks still scorched into the stone. Children were playing there now. She smiled. Captain, came a voice behind her. She turned to find a young Virexi officer, Lieutenant Azek, saluting crisply. New arrivals from Earth. Aid workers, a medical research team, and someone asking for you. Jorah raised a brow. Who? Azek smiled. He said he used to make coffee aboard the Dauntless. In the central plaza, Among newly built hydroponic gardens and clean-swept streets, Elias Rourke sat on a bench, a battered mug in one hand. "You always find the worst benches in the galaxy," Jorah teased. He grinned. "Only the ones with a good view." She sat beside him, and for a moment they simply listened, to birds chirping, to workers laughing, to the low hum of a rebuilt power grid humming with solar capture arrays. "I hear you turned down Admiralty," she said. "Yup. You could have had your own fleet." "I already had my fleet," he replied. "Now it's time for a different kind of war." She nodded, understanding. "Peace," he chuckled. "The hardest campaign of them all." In orbit, the newly commissioned Terran diplomatic cruiser Unity star hovered silently. Inside, holograms of 30 alien representatives circled the central platform. A Virexi elder stepped forward. "My world was ash," she said, her voice rich with age and memory. "And when we called, you came." Others nodded. An Agarathi war monk bowed. "My people believed no one but predators ruled the void. You disprove that." Even a few of Earth's former rivals, now allies, spoke up, humbled by the scale of the Terran sacrifice. At the center of the platform stood Ambassador Ron Delgado, human, first of his name to ever hold the title Speaker of the Outer Accord. "We came," he said simply, "because it is who we are." He looked around. "And now we ask you to stand with us. Not as subjects, not as servants, but as equals, as friends." The vote passed. Unanimously. On Earth, the world watched the feed with bated breath. From the megacities of old Africa to floating citadels above the Pacific Rim, cheers erupted. A new age had begun, not of human domination, but of human arrival. Still, not all mysteries had been solved. The relic deep beneath Virex 7 remained dark, its systems inert. But Terran scientists believed it had been a gate, or perhaps a transmitter. A remnant from an ancient intelligence long gone, or simply waiting. One theory gained traction in classified circles, that the relic had activated only in response to a certain kind of energy. Not fusion, not radiation, but hope. The moment a dying warrior chose to believe someone would come. A Terran signal, a frequency no machine could fake. The belief that help would arrive. 5 years later, Rourke, now a civilian, lived quietly on the edge of Titan's lesser moon, cultivating algae forests and mentoring young explorers. Until, one day, he received a coded message. Encrypted. Origin unknown. He opened it. One sentence. "We heard you." He looked to the stars and smiled. Epilogue. The legend. In future generations, across 1,000 species, the story would be told again and again. Of a planet surrounded, a people forgotten, a beacon lit into the cold dark, and of the ones who came, not for glory, not for conquest, but because, in every corner of the stars, in every ruined city and silent moon, there was always a chance that someone was listening, that someone still cared, and that when the signal rose, against all odds, it would be humanity, the loud, stubborn, reckless, and fiercely loyal humans, who would come roaring out of the void, not with fanfare, but with fire.